This demo is about filtering reports, which you use to restrict what you see after you have done a report. It uses the new Simple Filter window, introduced in Donation Release Number 4.15 and Accounts Release Number 2.24. Although all of the examples we will do in this video are on filtering reports in Donation, the exact same facilities are available when you filter reports in our bookkeeping program Accounts, or in Donation you do mass mailings with letters mass mailing, or email newsletters, or email everyone. So let's take a look at one sample report, reports, donor, donation info, sort by name. It's a good simple example, calls for a range of dates, that's fine, we'll take the whole year. You can see that we've got various fields here, the name, this year's amounts, the previous year, and the two donor categories. Suppose we only want to see the people that gave at least $100 this year. We're going to click Filter, and the Simple Filter window comes up. As you can see, there are four controls here that you can use for specifying your desired filter, and you get a little pop-up with more explanation for each one. This is the list of columns, operators for comparisons, the value you want to compare, and for when you have multiple rows, and or to determine how it goes between them. So let's see a list of the available columns. I'm just going to actually first move this down so we can again see the column headings. You see name in the report, but here in the list you see reverse name, since it's actually the last name comma first name, or the business name that shows in the report. Amount and last year amount are pretty clear. Amount must refer to this year's amount, 2019 in this case. And then we've got the category 1 and 2 fields. So all I need to do is click on amount, and then in the operator I want greater than or equal to, and in the value 100. You notice I didn't use any dollar signs or commas. It would give a warning if you did that. Because there's only one condition, we don't need anything in the and or column. If I click out of here or click anywhere else, you'll notice that down in the output filter criteria area down here, it shows a text version of that filter. That's how you had to specify filters in earlier versions of Donations and Accounts, as plain text typed out like that with mathematical operators like the greater than or equal sign. So now we have what we want. Click OK. And now I've got only the two donors that gave at least $100. Now this is helpful up here. Do you see filtered on amount greater than or equal to 100? In most reports, when there's room to do so, if you put a filter on, it adds that into the heading of the report so that you can see exactly how you've generated this report. So let's look at a couple of other things. Let's try using the reverse name and say it's less than or equal to B. Now what it's going to do is going to take all the names that start with something before B, namely A, and also numbers are considered to come before letters. So as you'll see, that business name that starts with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is included. There's no need to use quotation marks in the value that we put here. They do show up on the report, and as you'll see in the output filter criteria there. What else could we do? Let's look at the category 1 value. If we look here, one of the values is member. So let's change that to category 1 equals member. We'll click OK, and you'll say now I've got 3 that have category 1 member. It's important to understand that for text values like category names, they're case sensitive. So if I change this to small m member and click OK to do the filter, they're all gone because nobody has a category 1 with the lowercase first letter m. Suppose I want members and attenders, another value of category 1, and nobody else. There's a couple of ways I could do that. First, I'll fix this back to the capital letter, and then I'm going to go or category 1 equals attender. And you notice I didn't do the drop downs that time. I actually just, in each field, if you click first letters, like I clicked E for equals, the first thing that starts with that will come up. We click OK, and there you go. We've got some with member, some with attender. Now we're going to try it a slightly different way. First, we'll delete this second condition with the red trash can icon. Answer yes. And then instead, we're going to use the operator in and change this to member, comma, attender. I could put any number of things separated by commas. So the word in means if it's a member or attender or whatever you put in the comma separated list, it's going to come up. It gives the same results as the previous version with or, as you can see. There's our members and attenders. Now, let's eliminate the filter with the trash can again. If you do that, the whole report comes back. And unlike previous versions of the program, it should also come back in the original sort order, which, as you can see, is by the name. Now, suppose I want to find the people that have no Category 1 value, because maybe everybody is supposed to be categorized and I want to list them and fix them up. Well, there's a special operator for that. It's called isEmpty. You'll see when I use that, the output criteria uses the function isNull. A function is something that you put a word and then brackets and some value in the brackets and it does something or says something about it. What that means is that the Category 1 value is what we call in programming speak null or empty. Click OK and you'll see that there are quite a few donors with no Category 1 value. Of course, this is a small database I'm playing with. And I'm just going to delete that filter again to go back to the full list. Now, I want to point out something really important about what you can and cannot do with filters. What you can do is take these rows of data, so like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Quebec Limited, Adams Carroll, etc., and restrict it so that you see only some of these rows. What you cannot do is change the contents in those rows in any way. So for instance, one thing somebody might think they would like to do is see the totals of the donations, but only the donations to the general donation category. Well, there's no field for the donation category on this report. We have donor categories, 1 and 2, but not donation categories. So you cannot do that. All you can do is restrict based on the fields that you see. That's why when you run the report, which we can do again with the rerun button, we've actually already given you an option to restrict it by donation category. So there's what you get, and you'll see these amounts have changed when we do that restriction. Okay, that's covered a lot of options. Now let's look at a couple more filtering options with a different report. Let's go to Reports, Donation, All Donations, Sort by Name. And again, we'll take all the dates. So if I look at this, it looks like there are a couple of donations on June 28th. I want to see only those ones. How do I do that? Of course, I could have done that via the date range prompt for this report, but let's do it by the filter instead. Let's look at the names of the columns. Date received, that must be the one we're interested in, and equals, and I'm going to put in 6/28/2019. And again, if I tab out, you'll notice something interesting, which is that down here in the output filter criteria, it's reformatted that. And that format is actually the official internal way the dates need to be formatted in filters, which is 4 digits for the year, a dash, 2 digits for the month, a dash, and 2 digits for the day. But we can enter it the way we do data entry on this computer. So click OK, and there you have it. Now let's show you another trick. Suppose I just wanted all the ones in June. There are several ways to do that, but let's use the between operator. And this time, when I type the dates, I'm going to use that internal format. You can use either one. So you say a field is between one value and another value. Now, if I click OK on that, error message. Your filter is not valid. The value column expects date values. So what's wrong? What did I do wrong? Oh, I missed a dash there. So it wasn't in the right format to be an official date. Try again. There we go, all the ones in June. Now let's go to another report that will show us some other interesting things. Reports, donor, mailing labels with member envelope number. We'll accept the defaults, doing it for all donors. Now, in the filter, if we look at the columns, There are a lot of them, and we actually have to scroll to see all of them. We've got obvious things that we can see in the report, the address fields, the member envelope number, which here shows as member number, but in some other reports might be member underbar number. It's a bit inconsistent, but you should be able to always figure out what's what. And short name, postal code. But we've also got a whole bunch of other fields included that we could also filter on, even though they're not displayed in this report. That's a little programming trick that we do, where some of the reports have extra fields included in them invisibly so that you can filter on them, but they don't show up. So for instance, remember category 1 is things like member and attender. So let's do that same filter, category 1 equals member. And now we have just a few. You can't see the column that it's being filtered on because it's mailing labels and that column isn't displayed, but it has done the restriction. Similarly, you could filter on any of these other info 1 through other info 6 fields, or the member number as we mentioned, which is always just the member or envelope number. Suppose we want to do a mailing to everybody that doesn't have a member number, because I might want to send them a letter and say, hey, would you like to get an envelope number and envelopes for your weekly contributions to our church? So, member number is empty. There they are. Now, if I want to get everybody that does have a member number, I can change that to is not empty. And there's the ones with the member number. Another way to do that would be member number probably greater than 0, assuming you don't use member number 0, and that should be exactly the same people. Let's show you another cool thing that you can do. What if I want to get only everybody that's in Quebec? That would be with QC in the address somewhere, assuming that's how I was coding it. Well, for starters, I'm not sure where it's going to be in the address. It could either be an address 2 or 3. So here's what I'm going to do. Adder 2, and then I'm just going to hit L 3 times to get to like, and I'm typing %QC%, which I will explain in a moment, or adder 3 like %QC%. So what am I saying? Well, the word like allows you to compare fields to text that includes the %sign, and the % means anything. So when I say %QC%, I mean QC appearing anywhere in the field. It could be at the very beginning, in the middle, or at the end. If you wanted it to only be at the end of adder 2, you would say %QC without the final %. And then I haven't said it's anything after the QC, so it has to be at the end. But I do want it anywhere at all, so I'm going to leave the % in. Another really important thing, and of course this is true everywhere in the program, is that everything that I've told you here, and much more, is in the Help page. And if you do click Help on this filter window, that page comes up. The full details about this window are in there. So let's just do this. And there you see a couple with QC, and you can also see that it's in different lines. This was in adder 2, this one's in adder 3. Now, I mentioned earlier that when you're filtering on text, it's case sensitive. In other words, it really does matter whether it's a member with a capital M or small m. Suppose I'm looking for just people with the last name Adams, but I don't remember whether I spelled the names with all capital letters or capital A and the rest small. So if I do this, name like %Adams %, I get a couple, but I know there's another one which is Carol Adams in all capital letters that doesn't come up. So now we're going to go into the advanced filter window, which is actually a lot like the old filter window in earlier versions of donations, and it uses plain text filters. When you click that button, it starts with the displayed output filter criteria if there is one from your previous use of the window. But this window allows some more complex stuff that you can't do with this simple filter window. In this case, what we need is the function upper. I'm going to highlight the field name and then double-click upper, which will surround it with that function upper. The function upper converts the field name to all uppercase. So what that means is if I compare it to something in uppercase, it's not going to matter whether it was actually Adams with small letters or uppercase. It's always going to match. But to make it match, I do have to change what I'm comparing it to all caps. There we go. So this gets around that problem that I don't know what case I typed those names in as, and that the comparisons are normally case sensitive. So click OK, and there we go. Now we've got 4, and in fact one of them isn't even named Adams, it's Mac Adams, but that's because we're looking for Adams anywhere in the name. Other uses of advanced might be to compare the values of 2 fields, or if you have 3 or more criteria, with a combination of and or. Neither of those things can be done with a simple filter window. The advanced filter window also has its own help topic with lots more details. And that's all I've got to tell you about filtering reports. Thank you for watching.